Welcome to a special edition of The Interview. The Interview is a series of conversations with people who influence the way we live our lives, or people who come up with ideas that ought to influence the way we live our lives. Today we're in conversation with Kamal Haasan, critically acclaimed actor and now politician. Mr. Haasan, thank you so much for joining us. Or should I say, Romba Nandri. It's very nice to have you here on the channel. Vishwarupam 2. Congratulations on the release. I know you're personally very proud of this film, and I've read that this is the prequel and the sequel to the previous film. How does that work? You've written it. How do you fit both into one script?
In the sense, it's one long story which we have decided to send out to the audience in a serial fashion. That's what it is. The narrative pattern goes back and forth. To keep the intrigue, we just set it up, keep up the intrigue of the audience by not saying who they are actually, and then let them discover, be surprised by the layers within the character, and everybody is not what they seem. The veneer sort of peels off very quickly and you see something else, and then you take it to a pace, and then you settle down and go back and explain those unanswered questions
from the previous,
which means you go back,
yes,
where it all started.
Okay,
you explain it. I mean, this kind of writing is very common in novel writing, but cinema tends to want to be linear,
yes,
and narrative. So, but we have gone back and forth, and since we split it in two parts, the second half becomes the sequel and the prequel, whereas the first half is the setup and a bit of the past.
But it has been 5 years between the first one and the second one. Are you worried that the audience is going to have to go back and watch the first one? Because you tend to forget some of the details, and if you're answering the questions now.
But even as we designed, because it's a separate, as a limited liability screenplay,
yes,
you know,
okay,
it's a standalone. That's how we should.
So even if someone went out and just watched this one, it would still make sense to them.
A great example is Mr. Coppola's Godfather,
yes,
2, which is actually 1 by chronology.
And then, yes, and then they went back to telling the story that happened.
So,
yes,
but it's a standalone. You clearly understand. You don't have to see Godfather 1 to understand Godfather 2, because it's a story in itself.
And I understand you've left the ending open to a third part of this franchise as well.
No, anything you can keep on extending. I mean, they still write continuations to Mahabharata, what happened afterwards, and try to connect it to today. I haven't thought of it.
You haven't thought of it. Yeah. There's a lot of speculation about, right now, two hats. One as a filmmaker, storyteller, actor, director, and one as a politician, and how long you can keep both of these running together. So if you haven't thought about a part 3, you haven't really said that, this is my last film, or you don't have a deadline.
It could be. I don't know, but I am committed one more.
Okay.
I have to finish one more, so there are 2 films there. I'm not thinking of films because I think I've done enough, and they have done. I mean, when I say they, the people of India and Tamil Nadu have been very, very kind. They've given me 10 times more than what I have given them in entertainment. By virtue of luxury and fame, they've given me so much that it's time to return the favor, the gift that they had given me, and without which I don't feel complete. It sounds emotional, but why not? When do I get emotional about my state and my country?
Well, there are a lot of people who are going to be looking for clues in the film, saying, is this a political launch? Are you going to tell us which way you're leaning? No, some ideas embedded in the script. Are they Easter eggs?
I have clear compartments that way. It's another faculty of mine where so I had no need to use this. I have used other platforms, this itself might be a platform, but it was not designed or intended to be
feed
that.
the other.
It was
Because there are some interesting dialogues, even in the trailer, where you say, it's not okay to be a traitor. It doesn't matter what religion you have, but it's not okay to be a traitor. And that's dealing with a lot of current affairs.
Geopolitical thriller.
Yes. So
will have a dialogue like that. And I have always spoken, you see, Heram even speaks more vociferously about state of the collective conscience. It comments on it and is angry, worried, concerned. It comes through my films.
Well, it's obvious that you're not right-leaning, but there's been so much speculation about the people you've associated with, because you've met with Mr. Kejriwal, because you attended Mr. Kumaraswamy's swearing, and you reached late, but you were there, because you've had these conversations, you've been seen with these people. So people are asking if you're going to be part of the 2019 Mahagathbandhan. Is that the side that you see yourself?
It depends on what it offers Tamil Nadu. But I'm starting with Tamil Nadu. I'm facing what ails me and my state.
Okay.
And our first intent is to challenge the status quo, the stagnation that we have wrought upon ourselves.
But I'm going to go into each of those issues that ails the state of Tamil Nadu. But first I want to understand, to make this clear, you're saying if the Mahagathbandhan does have enough to offer Tamil Nadu, in your opinion,
yes,
you would consider being part of it?
Absolutely. Anything. Because I think ultimately we are not talking to enemies. I mean, we are talking to people who are pursuing the same goal. And it's very juvenile to think of personality clashes in this. They're people.
But personality clashes could derail the whole thing. I mean, first of all,
let
me ask you a question for a person of your experience about accepting Rahul Gandhi, say, as the prime ministerial candidate. Would you believe he's the best man for the job? Or would it just be politics making that decision?
No, we have to choose the best man for the job, and we must argue it out. And every man can rise to the occasion, we don't know. But we must choose the best man, and the voice should be unanimous. And it's high time that the south of India also voiced its concern and commitment to the nation. Because ultimately, we can't just dream of a nation without working together. You have to stitch the nation together, constantly keep sewing it
do you
together.
believe that this sort of combination of different allies will reach a unanimous decision on one candidate?
It's difficult. When you have a crowd, there will be a difference of opinion. But I am looking at the synergy. Our party symbol itself talks about the 6 states.
Yes.
I believe in the federal
form of
government. The autonomy of each state, the diversity of the country should be preserved. So we will work towards that. And with that, we want to voice. We want to be that voice. When I say we, I mean people from South should have a say, and they are capable. If
All right,
they
so
can.
let me focus on the issues that you talk about that are ailing Tamil Nadu. To begin with, obviously water. And this is something that you feel strongly about. What is the biggest problem? Drinking water, irrigation water?
It's a global problem, so let's not blame Tamil Nadu.
But I'm not blaming Tamil Nadu. But you met with Mr. Kumaraswamy. I understand you've had conversations. What is your solution to the water problem? What solution would you propose?
I think it is not with chief ministers.
Okay.
It's with the people. And with the governance, and it's not impossible to overcome this.
But overcome it how?
Easter Island have wiped their whole water resources and recreated it thousands of years ago. And it's still possible, but you'll have to work together as a civic society, which the impedance in that is avaricious, corrupt politicians who we have appointed and delegated. We shouldn't delegate. At least if we do, we should keep the vigil. And that's That's what I'm talking about. I
you're
think
talking about
corruption is...
Yes, you're talking about developing Tamil Nadu's own water resources, but what about the solution to the Kaveri problem?
We have to talk. I mean, nobody can own. We were monkeys when Kaveri was still running. So it's suddenly to own up and say, and even to be arrogant enough to say that the water is being wasted in the sea. That's what it's supposed to do. The salinity is reduced. I mean, the ecosystem works like that. How can you arbitrarily decide it for the use of man that you will divert nature, you'll bend?
I had a conversation with Mr. Kumaraswamy about a week or so ago, and he said one of the solutions is for Tamil Nadu to build its own reservoir before the water hits the sea, and that's how we will solve the problem. You don't seem to agree.
People around the world are destroying dams because they think a river is meant to run. America has brought down about 300 dams. Why would they do it? They're rethinking the process. You cannot, nature will not be as elastic as we think it is. And we are realizing it. Look at the beach outside where we are sitting down. I've seen it just 20 years back. People were bathing in it. Now I'll think twice with even sticking my foot into it. It's gutter water here.
Yes.
We have done it. And around the thing, it's not just, but the thing is that first what we have to face is don't face the problem which is topical now. The basic, the bottom of the pit is that we have allowed it to atrophy in corruption.
But the farmers in Tamil Nadu are still extremely upset. There's still there's still problems of suicide. They still feel like their demands have not been met, that nobody's listening to them. The protest that began in Chennai, that went to Delhi and then came back to Chennai, is still on.
It's
What
still
is the solution for the farmers?
Very simple solutions are there. You could offer some farmers the same facilities that you offer North Indian farmers could be offered to the...
Which are?
Which waive the loans.
Okay.
Yeah, because it's not impossible. You can do it. It's been done in a neighboring state. It's been done in another state. If it's possible, that's all they're asking.
But the Swaminathan committee has very clearly told us that the loan waiver is a painkiller. It's a band-aid. It's a temporary solution. The longer-term solutions.
So what do you do? I mean, don't give any palliative care at all when somebody is dying. I know that we are looking at long-term solutions. What about these pains? These are real. These people are really talking about. And the groundwater resources are being depleted in panic and in a ruthless manner. We have to sit on it. Everything is up for sale, including sand.
Yes.
So what do? I mean, while you're trying to address one problem, you're raping the earth for personal gain. And nothing could stop the sand mafia. It is aided, abetted by the government reaction. Whereas from the governmental side, it was very thoughtless. It's obvious. Anybody in the media would be able to see through it. Whatever be the reasons, the governments have always given reasons for putting down agitations, killing people. It's not the first time independent India has seen people shot down. Government shooting at people. This is not the first government to do it. But still, will it continue and we'll keep on hearing excuses? And we have a voice from the center that says if you can't contain it, we'll send the army. I mean, those are ominous signs rather than, we are not looking for appeasement, but we're looking for a dialogue. When I say we, I'm talking about Jallikattu was not the most essential of the things, but it's a reaction to suppression for so long. And that starts 2 decades ago. And it's sort of coming up. It's a collective conscience screaming aloud.
I understand that from some, rumbles in the state, that you're not being allowed to enter colleges, that you're not being allowed to speak on television as much as you used to when you were just, in the entertainment industry. Is that true?
It is.
Is there a diktat against
you? You can't point exact legal fingers at, because my name is not mentioned anywhere.
Okay.
Just a government order saying, do not entertain people coming into college and talking politics. And next day the ministers go and do the same thing. So a rule is a rule for everybody. But I think that it's apprehension and fear. I mean, holding on to the seat is an old trick.
But the city of Chennai is suffering from lack of local governance. There hasn't been an election for the local government of Chennai. It has been delayed for a really long time. And nobody's even asking for it anymore. Would your party consider, why wouldn't your party consider pushing for the elections and running for the elections? Because it's the closest.
We were the party who reminded of a facility and the right that we had about the Gram Sabhas. It's a quarter-century old idea, and it's not put to practice. And we actually the informed people have been trying to reach out to people to arm the people with that right they have. And we thought our profile would be useful for these kind of soldiers on the street who are trying to do good for the people. And we got together and did this mock Gram Sabhas. And they were popular, and suddenly it's happening now. Every season, the four times that we are supposed to congregate is happening regularly now. And we are doing our best, and we will push for those things. As a matter of fact, the opposition walked out of the assembly. And they were legislating new things, and it was an empty assembly with no
with the voices,
no other voices, no wall to bounce at all. But we were asking questions from outside on pertinent matters. That itself becomes our primer to our policies. We are doing that. Even
within the state and the city of Chennai, corruption, from what we understand, is at perhaps an all-time high. There is a power vacuum at this point, because it is also a state that has always leaned on one hero/leader, which, to be honest, the state doesn't have. So let's assume, hypothetically speaking, you were in charge tomorrow. How would you solve the corruption problem?
The thing is, the word vandalism comes from the Vandals who entered Rome. They never wanted to settle in Rome. That's not their place. So they just took what they can, destroyed what they can, took the loot and walked out back to where they believed was their living space.
Yes.
That's exactly what we got. We got vandals there. People who are responsible and they want to live there and want to make the state better will find ways. We are those people.
But what are those ways? Because the corruption is not limited to politicians. It's also in the bureaucracy.
Yes.
How would you, look at the illegal construction right now in Chennai.
Let's start with the Lok Ayuktha bill, which is for real, not a sham.
She would amend the current form of Lok Ayuktha.
The form in its original true spirit. I don't know how legally we're going to do it, because they'll say it is legislative, you can't tamper with it. But we'll have to come up with another idea which is similar to that, or even work with the legal system and see to it that it gets back the very spirit of it. And everybody, including whoever takes up office, will sit under the sword of democracy. And that is the only way to begin the process.
Well, you keep saying we when you refer to the party. And in order to run a
would I suffice? I would say I. But it doesn't
in order to compete or contest a state election, you have to have candidates in every constituency. Do you have a plan? Do you have people who believe in what you believe, who are willing to contest it? It's an expensive prospect as well. Where will the money come from?
It will come from the people. It will come from the people who are willing to invest in Tamil Nadu. I have invested This party does not come from, I didn't pull it out of thin air. There's no magic in it. I have invested into the party. My money is there into the party. My house is the party headquarters. My father's house, which I bought and partly inherited, is now the party office. And I have some people are investing. Some people want to come in and change Tamil Nadu, and these are emotional people. And there are a lot of young people, engineers, doctors, police officers, retired police officers, ex-servicemen. They're all joining, lawyers. And
how many do you have so far? Possible candidates?
We have first lined our, what do you call, the armature. That is the system, the structure is ready. But we are not going to be discussing it publicly. We announced we dissolved the committee, which was the high-level committee, which was formed to create all these things. And now that they've become the executive committee. We'll have about executive committee exceeding 35, 40 maybe, depending on. And then we have verticals. We are deciding those verticals on each turai, as we call it. Each
and is the
department.
fan base going to be turned into a cadre base?
Yeah, they are already, they are partly trained social workers.
Okay.
They've been working with me for 37 years. That's a long time. They're used to taking not orders, but directions from me. And
so, and there's the central elections, which we talked about, state and city and panchayat. Will your party be contesting across
234,
all?
yeah.
All in all of these elections.
That's our goal.
Okay.
Yeah, we're working towards it.
Okay. There has been also a lot of talk now, and we've always, for the longest time, Tamil Nadu elections or Tamil Nadu politics, the Dravidian politics has not been about caste. It's been outside of caste. But now we're hearing rumbles of Devars and Gaundars and things like that. Is there a fissure being created based on caste in Tamil Nadu, in your opinion?
Always. Around the country.
Is it coming back? Is it being used right now?
It never went away.
Okay.
That's our complaint. It never went away because they fostered it. It's a nursery. The politics is a nursery that sort of feeds into this caste system, because I think we learned it from the British, because it was easy for governors and management, because you divided human beings in verticals, and it was quick to dispense off one or help one.
You, in fact, visited Mr. Karunanidhi not long ago. Could you tell us how he's doing in the conversations perhaps you had?
I couldn't see him.
You couldn't see him.
Yeah,
okay.
because
and understandable.
We have to respect that acute care that they're trying to give him, and the possibility of infection, his age. And I just met Mr. Stalin, and I thought that was going to end that day, because that's how serious I heard it was. But then
he's a fighter.
Robust health that he enjoyed through his life is probably helping him now. And I don't know whether he's suffering or
Well, this is going to be my next question to you. If you're considering at all, like which you said you have, if there are enough promises for Tamil Nadu in the Mahagathbandhan, you'd consider being part of it. The DMK would also automatically be part of it as a Congress ally. So is there an alliance there between you and the DMK then?
That's something we have to seriously think about, because people with baggages are people who are going to impede whatever we are dreaming of for Tamil Nadu. So it's a very difficult choice. And I'm not going to say that I'll do exactly the right thing.
So you believe the DMK has baggage?
Absolutely. You cannot say that they don't.
Okay.
I mean, ask the people of Tamil Nadu.
And is this the baggage of corruption? What sort
Absolutely.
of baggage? Okay.
Yes, they have that. I mean, what more do you want? At least they were accused of it. The courts, and the proof of the pudding is there. But Well, that doesn't mean the whole party is so, but still, baggage is baggage, and people are still there in the party, and we'll have to see. And what kind of amends are the party going to make on that? What kind of promises? We can't just lash out and say you did it once and that's it, you're finished. Because people will give them a chance if they make the right promises.
There have obviously been a lot of comparisons between you and Mr. Rajnikant, because you are both launching political parties, although the ideology, while you've explained some of your ideology, he hasn't explained any of his at all. Is it because, like I said, there is a leadership vacuum in the state right now that
why
either
would
of
that,
you could
why
perhaps...
would that stop anyone from explaining ideologies? Leadership vacuum is it's a vacuum, but what happens to your own personal logic? So that's what I'm finding. That's why we call our party a centrist party. There's been a lot of thought and deliberation and lateral thinking. We are unwilling to settle for negative, positive answers to all questions. There has to be a third alternative, like Edward de Bono said. It can't be yes and no. Find a third word. If it doesn't exist in the vocabulary, create it and call it Poe.
So, a lot of people have said that the two of you, both of you, Mr. Rajnikant and yourself, coming in at the same time would probably be counterproductive, and if you all join forces, you'd be a much greater force. Is that something you entertain at all, or do you just think that...
It's a thought. Well, if Gandhiji and Subhash Chandra Bose had collaborated, independence would have been
completely different ideas, though.
Yeah, so I don't know, but it can happen or it cannot happen, but it depends on what we truly believe in. And I don't see Gandhiji joining the Indian National Army.
My last question, of course, is there is criticism coming in from inside members of government, spokespeople of the AIADMK, who said movie stars cannot become politicians or chief ministers overnight. Now, this is amusing also because look at the history of the state, but what is your answer to them? They say that you have no experience.
Anybody can become the guardians of our civic society. You cannot discriminate. So they're wrong.
They're wrong. All right, Mr. Kamal Haasan, thank you so much for giving us your time. I appreciate it. Good luck for the release of Vishwarupam 2, which comes out on the 10th.
10th of August, yes.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.